Good afternoon, everybody. It's Olivia here, founder of Silk in Melbourne and Ponytail Pro. I run a couple of online businesses and am very excited today to be hosting the NORA webcast partnered with Lexer. So today it's going to be all about how Lexer assists retailers in growing customer lifetime value, which I think is probably more so important right now than ever. And we are welcome today from Lexer with Christy Malik, who is the VP of Customer Success, and also with Ale Vendraman, I hope I said that correctly, who is the Non-Executive Director and Board Member for KIKKIK. Before we kick off with today's webinar, we are going to hear a little bit from Ale just in regards to, I guess it's no secret, it's been publicised in the media in the last few weeks, just a little bit of background and context to what is happening in the world of KIKKIK right now. So over to you, Ale.
Thanks, Olivia. And hi, Christy and everybody else in the webinar. So yes, as you very well know, KIKKIK we actually put KIKKIK in VA a few weeks back for very simple reasons of cash flow and doing the right thing by the business and by all creators of the business. Having said that, what I want to highlight is that the love towards the brand from customers throughout on social, directly to Christina Carlson, our founder, and pretty much everybody in the teams has been overwhelming. And another piece is we are discussing with the various potential partners, many of them from global corporations and groups, which are very, very interested in partnering with us moving forward. So what we expect, and what I say is nothing's confirmed, but we can expect is actually a very bright future for KIKKIK moving forward, whilst we go through this difficult period for everybody. And when it comes to today's discussion as well, everything that has to do with VA is completely out of my scope. So that's for the administrators to handle. So really the focus of this discussion is really how we work on customer understanding and customer engagement, and how Lexer has helped us do that and continues to help us doing this, even through difficult times like all of us retailers and other industries are going through today, obviously with all the things that are happening globally, like coronavirus. That's the main one.
And just on that point, Ale, I might just ask everybody, we obviously welcome questions today, and they will be either shared during today's presentation or towards the end, but I would ask that you do keep the questions relevant to the context of this actual webinar, just for respect for KIKKIK during this time.
Wonderful. Okay. Hi everybody, it's Christy here. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context about Lexer as a business, but specifically related to how we are helping KIKKIK. So to start with, Lexer is an Australian analytics software business, and we are headquartered in Melbourne. We've been up and running for 10 years now, and we also have offices in Sydney, New York and LA. All of our software development, however, happens onshore in Melbourne. Specifically for KIKKIK, we have built a customer data platform, which we refer to as a CDP, that has helped to create a unified, enriched and actionable single view of customer. And we help many consumer retailers, just like KIKKIK, to better understand their customers, including things like lifetime value, churn risk, and past and present engagement and behaviour. But to put that in really simple terms, Lexer's primary mission is to help consumer retailers to drive profitable growth by helping them to genuinely understand and engage their customers. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more through the lens of the architecture of a CDP. So on the left-hand side of this diagram, for KIKKIK specifically, we have loaded in numerous types of customer data into the CDP. Those include customer data, such as name, address, date of birth, and gender, transactional data from both in-store and online. And KIKKIK is actually one of the best retailers in Australia at collecting customer data in-store. And this not only fuels their membership program, but really helps to build and grow their customer IQ. We also load product data, which incorporates a really detailed taxonomy across product department, product type, and even right down to the colours of products that customers purchase. and also email engagement data such as opens, clicks, and finally website behavioural data, which includes things like product pages visited, conversion data. We look at the recency of a customer visit and the number of pages that a customer takes to convert online. All of this data is loaded into the CDP and unified to a single customer record. We then have a really rich view of the customer that informs things like next best channel, next best product, and what high value customers might look like. The software allows KIKKIK to build quite powerful segments that they can then push into their paid and owned marketing channels, such as email, social, search, and display. So with this enriched and actionable single view of customer and utilising the data that is stored within the CDP, KIKKIK now is able to make many more informed decisions and actions on that unified data set. There are plenty of use cases that a CDP delivers, but I've just highlighted some of the key problems, or the 5 key problems that the CDP is working to solve for KIKKIK. The first is around utilising our learning around high value customers to acquire new lookalike high value customers. We look at helping to solve the problem around identifying segments to ultimately grow CLV, which is the core of what we're talking about today. We look at ways to reduce churn through flagging of customers and then implementing a series of targeted comms to help prevent that churn. And we look at identifying the best channel to speak with a customer on, which links to that 5th use case, which is helping KIKKIK optimize their media budgets through things like suppressing customers who have purchased recently and providing the capability to undertake more detailed creative and channel testing. So I'll pass over to Alain. He's going to take you through some more information about KIKKIK's journey.
Thanks, Christy. And yeah, at KIKKIK, one of the things amongst many other things that we're really, really proud of is our heritage and our purpose. What you see here is our very purpose, which is what makes us get out of bed every morning and really give our very best to service our customers in the most beautiful way we can. And that is through beautiful Swedish design. We inspire and empower people the world over to live their best life every day. And this is by dreaming. Everything starts with a big dream. Then we're doing or execute that dream. We enjoy it. And finally, we give back and we share that with the rest of society. And if you look at every single one of our products and every single one of our experiences, really fit in one or more than one of these 4 pillars of dreaming, doing, enjoying, and share. And as I mentioned earlier in this webinar, is the love that we see in KIKKIK in the next slide is tremendous. So the love that we see throughout the world on social is phenomenal. And as you can see, how many people we're reaching or how many countries we reach, we're actually shipping products into more than 154 countries. And if you actually include territories or principalities, like for example, Monaco, that actually goes to more than 190 across the world. So the love that we receive for the brand is fantastic. And of course, the heritage that Christina Carlson, since founded in Melbourne, but she being Swedish, in 2001 with her partner and co-founder, Paul Lacey, have done a phenomenal work on building this truly amazing and truly global brand. And if we go back to the next slide, what we see very clearly why we decided to engage with Lexer and why investing in Lexer's customer data platform, it was really to become, as I joined the board of KIKKIK, is really understand our customers and not just saying that we have a customer in every single thing we do, at the center of every single thing we do, is really doing that. And by doing that is having a single view of the customer in the one place with one single source of truth. And Lexer was the best partner that we found to actually do so. And the outtake of this and why we do this is, number one, is to really enable, enhance, and accelerate transformation for the business, really by putting the customer at the center, and that leads as an outcome increase enterprise value. The second piece is efficiency. And efficiency, and we saw this from the get-go, literally from 2 weeks after we actually were up and running with Lexer late last year. What we saw is how people in the team think differently, act differently, and actually make much more informed and smarter decisions just by simply having the right data that is actionable and fast. And so this highly improves decision making. The third piece is in terms of experience. And we all talk about customer experience. You know, everyone's probably tired about talking about customer experience, but it's absolutely true on how we can actually deliver this or actually improve this customer experience at every single touch point, whether it's online, whether it's in store, just by understanding who our customers really are. And finally, of course, we're a business, is revenue improvement. And we're going to share some examples with you how we started moving the needle from the get-go by decreasing customer acquisition costs and also increasing customer lifetime value, which in the end drives growth from revenue and also profit. What you see here in the very next slide is what we call a single view of a KIKKIK customer. In this case, this is a real customer. This is actually Christy. And what you can see in this slide is the richness and depth of data that we actually have in each identity. And like this very one identity, we have 3.7 million identities from people from across the globe. And what you can see here from the very left side is where all the data comes from in-store purchases, from stores, products, categories, as well as online purchases, same things. Web visits as well, so which products were browsed, added to cart, etc. So what navigations within the site the customer did. Email engagement, whether they opened, they clicked, they opt-in, and also survey insights and preferences. And that piece is really when we can understand why a customer takes an action or doesn't take an action, which is absolutely critical. Not only understanding what they do, but understanding why they do it. So if you look at then Christy's profile there, what you can see in terms of attributes is really what are the orders, and I'm not going to get into a lot of details. What are the products? So basically what has happened thus far, but also what the engine does through algorithms and very smart algorithms is really predict what Christy will be doing in the future. And that is predicting lifetime value, predicting the next purchase in terms of product and when, what channel preference, which one's the closest store that she prefers to shop from, and also engagement in the last 90 days or whatever that was. And then that actually drives and actually helps us create what are the best ways of communicating and engaging with this customer. In this case, examples, low value BAU member comms, notebooks offer, because that's a product that most likely she will like to buy. Target for surveys, yes, absolutely. We can understand a lot more what she likes, she doesn't like, and why. Broadway store experience, she purchased from Broadway store here in Sydney, and use for lookalike acquisition of people like her to actually go target throughout media across Facebook platforms and even Google platforms as well.
Ale, just a quick question while we're on the single view of customer. Is the data that comes into the system in real time? So obviously when someone transacts online or in store, like how quickly is that data uploaded to Lexer or to the system?
Yes, it's, well, real time is basically every single day. So we basically do an upload every 24 hours. So it is incredibly fresh, yes.
Thanks.
So if we go to the next slide, and what we see there in the next slide really is what are the key, a different level of understanding. So whilst we thought, and we did have a very good knowledge about our customers, what Lexer brought is another level of depth of understanding this customer, not only understanding one person, but understanding 3.7 million people at scale. And that is the beauty of it. And some of the things that we see is, for example, the higher the customer lifetime value, the more female the base becomes. And that is something that is very real for KIKKIK. We also saw that Singaporean online shoppers over-index by a long margin in email engagement. We also saw that multicolor products are popular in all markets, but people from London are 2.2 times less likely to purchase pink. I don't know why. And fun fact, Sarah happens to be the most popular KIKKIK buyer as a name. But another thing that we also observe is whilst we'll see a lot of differences between countries or even cities across the world, we also see incredible correlations and similarities. And if you see here, for those of you who don't speak Mandarin, and by the way, I don't speak Mandarin, I speak a few languages, but definitely not Mandarin. This is Taobao, which is probably the largest, if not the largest, customer to consumer platform or marketplace in China. And what you see here is the top 12 products from kikki.K that are sold there. And when we check this in Lexer, CDP, and when we correlated that with that of Australia for December last year, which is our highest period of sales, we actually seen that there was 98% correlation. So despite all the differences in culture, name it, between China and Australia, when it comes to loving kikki.K products, the similarities are incredible. And again, if we didn't have this data, we would not know that. The next slide, what shows is what really allows us to do is really having a very smart, what we call RFM model. Of course, it's not something that we invented, but of course we actually tailor this and do have this strategy that's specific for kikki.K. RFM being recency, frequency, and monetary value. And those are the three variables that we're really looking at all times from every customer to ensure we maximize customer lifetime value. So if you look at that very graph there, you have in terms of rows, the middle row, high value customers and low value customers as we define them, depending on spend or customer lifetime value. And then we have actives, who are people who have bought and purchased from us in the past year. The inactive is people who purchased from us 2 years ago. And the lapsed are people who purchased more than 2 years ago and we haven't seen them since. And if you can see there, the types of communication, how we engage with them by understanding this is active, high value, which is the most valuable customers that we have, is reward them and retain them. The inactive but high value is re-engage with them and bring them back to the first box to get them active with us again. And of course, lapsed to reintroduce them as we haven't seen them or heard from them for the past 2 years. When it comes to low value, we want to cross-sell and upsell. Of course, we want to get these people to ideally love kikki.K even more than they do and get increase the customer lifetime value. And then it's going to be very low touch for people who are lapsed and low value, and we actually don't put that much effort and energy into that segment. And what we did with that is not only stay with an RFM and Lexer data. So what we did is we populated or actually overlapped against personas. So we have done some work on personas from research outside Lexer. What we did is then use what we call, or what Lexer calls Lexer forms, which is basically a mode of research and research through on the database. And what we saw is that the correlation was actually very, very similar, but the amount of detail and level and depth of understanding got to a whole new level. And there you have the 4 main kikki.K customers, which we name Hannah, Rebecca, Brooke, and Sam. And I'm not going to give you more details on that, but really there's 4 very distinct customers we have. And we actually then bring this into segments within Lexer and helps us to target and deliver the right message at the right time to the right person by building an RFM specifically for each one of these segments. So what is customer lifetime value? I believe, Christy, you're going to go through this.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly cover an overview of how we look at CLV. So there are 3 common ways to calculate CLV, starting with the least analytical through to the most analytical. And the first really is around total spend. And that's a very simple calculation, which is taking total orders and then minusing returns. The benefits of that is you don't really need a data analyst or data science to help you create that. But obviously the limitation is that you're only looking back at past purchases and behavior. So it's not really going to tell you much about the future value of a customer, which is where predicted value comes in. And there are 2 ways to predict future spend. The first is to look at it from an aggregate. So an aggregate historical spend across your entire customer base. And that's looking at multiplying the average spend per year by the average customer lifetime value. So if you put that very simply, if customers spend $40 a year and they stay with you on average for 4 years, then you can predict that a customer who is only 2 years, they're likely to spend another $80. And in addition to that, looking at it as an aggregate, you can also then look at that predicted value against an individual customer. And this is where a machine learning model is applied, which predicts each individual customer's probability of repurchase. The model is most commonly used with 3 or more years of historical data. So that enables you to hold out the most recent 12 months of data to assess the accuracy of the predictions that are being made through the model. And obviously, in order to do that, you need an analytical resource and capabilities to fill that. The third method of calculating CLV is predicted lifetime spend. And that looks at past total spend and predicted spend to give you a predicted lifetime spend. So basically with this method, you're looking at calculating everything customers have spent in the past and predict their future spend using an aggregated model to understand the total lifetime value of your customers. And Lexer's approach to calculating CLV is very much focused on that third method. We take customer transaction data, we characterize customers using data such as total spend, number of orders, the average time between customer orders, how long they've been a customer for. Then we apply an algorithm to learn how much customers are likely to spend and how many orders they are likely to make using the data from across the whole customer base. The algorithms are cross-validated to ensure their accuracy, and then they're rolled out across the entire base. And once they're validated, they get loaded into the CDP and they're updated in as real time as the customer data is provided. And they're available as an attribute that is queryable within the CDP for use by KIKKIK. So why does CLV matter? One of the things that we say at Lexer is let the data set change the mindset. And CLV is one of those things that can have a really big impact, not just in marketing, but across whole of business, from customer insights right through to product development and marketing. And so we really believe in the value of CLV and applying it not only through your marketing comms, but enabling a whole of business to have access to that data so that they can make more meaningful decisions. In order to calculate CLV, really you need 3 key measures. The first is average order value. The second is purchase frequency per year. And the third is lifespan. In terms of how you look at building CLV, there's opportunities to grow lifetime value at every single touch point across the customer journey. So that is anything from acquisition right through to customer engagement, which includes things like upsell and cross-sell. So certainly believe that there is opportunity to identify ways to grow CLV. And also thinking about acquiring high value customers in the first place. So you're not wasting your media spend on every single customer who might have an interest in your brand. But if you can really pinpoint those customers who are likely to be high value, then that's certainly going to benefit your business in the long term. And Ale is going to talk a little bit more about how tangibly KIKKIK is doing that.
Thanks, Chrissy. So most businesses, 80% of revenue comes from 20% of customers. And when we actually looked at the data from KIKKIK, as we merged all the data from various sources onto our CDP, what we saw that this is actually very true, pretty much to the dot with KIKKIK. So one thing that's actually really, really important is not only to understand that the highest value customers really drive vast majority of the revenue, but also which are the products that these people buy, and so then we actually segment them in what we call them hero products, which is high customer value and also high purchase. So what we have is hero products, high value niches, fool's gold, and also underperformers. So really what we want to focus on is in the top right, top left, and bottom right. And what we see here in the next slide is that hero products, as an example, with high value lookalikes. So we have compendiums and notebook holders have the high average volume of first-time purchases and above average CLV. So, and the first product purchase in terms of colors of gunmetal and latte. So then we use that information, and we also know that 34 times more likely to spend more than $500 in the last 6 months, as well as 25 times more likely to buy more than 10 times, and that frequency is absolutely something that we want. So when we look at the creative a bit that we actually built, and this is for a placement on Facebook, as you can see there on the right hand side, is what we use is did 2 sets of A/B testing, one using Facebook pixel data and the other one using CDP first party data. Of course, Facebook understands the users better than we do, but also the CDP first party data, we understand our customers better than Facebook does. So while running that test, what we saw is we had less clicks to websites from our first party data from CDP, but significantly higher conversions. And this was actually one thing that was actually great to see in test and learns is not only is the more we understand our customer, really the results come. In terms of revenue growth for this particular example, that grew 56%. Pixels, which equates to 13 times return of advertising spend and 5% decrease in media spend, which was fantastic results. When we actually focus on high value niches for smaller targeted campaigns, what we saw in terms of insights is for the first time buyers, these products perform below average, but contribute to high customer value long term. So really, they're great for targeted acquisitions. So what we see, these people are 73 times more likely to spend $1,000 or more than other active customers. They're also 4 times more likely to have spent in the last 30 days and 2 times more likely to click on emails. So we talk about the creative. Over 60% of these people were predicted to buy notebooks. So hence, that's what we've been showing in the creative. And the impact was that email open rate was 38% higher than the actual benchmark that we have at KIKKIK. And by the way, when you talk about how much revenue email really drive for KIKKIK, you're talking about more than 30% of it. And we also saw that from this very email, we got nearly 200 new customers acquired in the first few days into our database. And then we go into fool's gold, which is leveraging seasonal buying moments. As an insight, what we see here is that customers who buy monogrammed products, so anything that's personalized, typically go on to have lower lifetime value. However, monogramming is of greater value during seasonal periods, and Christmas is absolutely the peak where we actually do this. As you can see in that example there, that's exactly where we're showing that. And the most monogram products that we have are leather keyrings, travel wallets, and notebooks. And online, as the biggest store that we have, selling to more than 150 countries around the world, Chatston and Emporium in Melbourne are also gifting hotspots. So when it comes to the creative, email campaign to VIP customers who have not received, not recently shopped, have open emails and also have open emails in the last 180 days. And the impact of that was that 50% of customers who clicked and purchased had not ordered in the last 140 days. And what that means is, again, helping out RFM of bringing people into that recency of purchase. Email open rate was almost 18% higher than normal, and 8% of clicks converted into online, which is also a great, great number. So when we look at all of this, and with very, very great results pretty much from the get-go, since we actually launched Lexer as our CDP, our key learnings is really, and we knew this from the beginning, but really know your customer intimately. And when we know, we knew that we knew a lot about our customer, but having everything organized and so easy to action and so easy to be lookalikes, and with the amount of data at scale, granular data and insights at scale that we can actually get with Lexer CDP, what took our understanding of our customer to a whole new level, which is growing, what we call growing our customer IQ. And that has been really a game changer for us. Once we have that, of course, it's identifying our hero products and segmenting accordingly, as I mentioned in a few slides ago. Then we build lookalikes of our most valuable customers, send that to either the Facebook platform or Google platform, activate that throughout media. And again, you saw greater results that we have had thus far on that spectrum, and test and learn. You know, test and learn is a never-ending game. None of this is a never-ending game, and we're always really aiming to lift the bar at every single touch point that we have with our customers. Now, moving into growing customer lifetime value through a second purchase. One of the things that we see, and is absolutely critical, is there's a lot of buyers who only purchase one, and the customer lifetime value, of course, is that basket, and that's it. Once we get customers to buy the second time, then they're 9 times more likely to make further repeat purchases, growing the customer lifetime value and keeping these customers for life. Clearly, that's the aim that we have. And whilst this may seem quite simple, that most products, then the second purchase would be the same product. That is true for many of the cases, as we see in the next slide. But if you see, for example, Department 2, which is pens, the second order is actually Department 4. And what we mean by this is not always is the obvious choice. Sometimes complementing products make a lot of sense as first purchase and second purchase. And this smart data and intelligence is what we use to really communicate the right product to the right people at the right time. Another thing that's really important on the next slide is really how many days or how much time it takes them to get to the second product. If you can see in this slide, vouchers is within 1 day, 8.3% of vouchers get converted. But when you look at 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6, 10, and 10 days, really members and member offers and member messages are the ones that convert really, really well. So clearly keeping members and really having loyalty programs and members for life is absolutely winner for us. And the question here is, of course, how do we actually, what is the right message and the right creative for these people at every single time, so we actually don't bore them with the same messages. And on the next slide, what you see is in terms of conversion to second order, is really to encourage second order. We leverage all the customer data that we have in a CDP to identify the most popular products and then get them to actually explore those products, and the conversion is far greater. As an example, what we see a very popular second order for us is cards. And as an insight, 70% of customers buy cards as part of their second order. And the goal is to maximize basket size through targeting a relevant set of products, which makes sense for them. So if you can see in the next slide, this creative example, we're showcasing second order products based on CDP insights. And if you scroll down in that one, which of course you can, but trust me, if you scroll down that one, you can see gift cards. And the impact of that is that the EDM open rate was 35% higher than the average open rate of a KIKKIK email. And the email click to conversion rate was also very strong and above average as well. So in the end, by understanding our customers really, really well, we start seeing all these great results, and we really are able to communicate one-to-one in high relevancy at scale and deliver the best customer experience possible. So what's next? And what's next for us, and what's next for probably most of you? In terms of customer retention after store closures. So store closures and store consolidation, even without VA, was something that we were looking at very, very highly, and really looking at closing many, many stores, but really keeping key stores as an experiential part of the KIKKIK world. And that is still the case. However, if we get the government to say, well, we need to close all retail stores in Australia, then that would accelerate everything and potentially even move everything to online. And what Lexer gives us, and our intelligence now gives us, is really great capability to act fast and deliver the right communications to send our customers to the right place for them to continue to have the products, regardless of the disruption that we're all living. And there's 3 steps to improve customer experience and retention. Obviously, the very, very first one is data. It's really having this data unified through all the data sources that we have had in the past, which were various of them, in a single customer view at speed. So it's not only that, but we have that right now. We can literally get it at speed. We can literally get it within a few seconds. Then what's the insight? So this CDP really gives or uncovers specific insights about customers, and really the most valuable that we see is, why people behave the way they behave, why people make decisions the way they make, rather than just understanding the what they buy, what they don't buy. And finally, the engagement, which is, develop tailored programs and communications to them in the examples that you saw in previous slides, to really make sure that we actually hit the mark. We're helpful to them, not disruptive, and we actually deliver what they want when they want it, to be able to deliver on our promise. As an example of this, and this is an example of a store, if we were, for example, if you look at the rows on that, people who bought in this store, but only bought in this closing store, is the first column. Second column is people who bought in that store at also nearby stores. And then people who bought omni-channel. So not only in that store, but also online. As you can see, the people who buy in-store and online is the highest number in terms of volume, and also is the highest in terms of revenue. So if we go to the next slide, more importantly, what we do with this really is understanding who our VIP outreach really are, and really focusing on delivering the right message to ensure that these people know we're closing that very store that they purchased from. And how do we get them to the next store, should that store be open? Or if Corona tells us that that store should close as well as all stores should close, then how do we shift people to online? Closing stores and nearby stores, again, incentivizing shopping behavior with member reward programs. And then also closing store to online, that's probably one of the simplest ones because they're already used to buying online, is really ensuring that they understand that online is the place to go moving forward. And the full low value customers, migrating to online, absolutely critical, and also provide incentives to visit nearer stores if they want to go to other stores should these ones be open. So what's next for KIKKIK? As concluding, so really is moving in a history from one store in Melbourne about 18 years ago to many stores, to growing into e-commerce, and then growing into wholesale. Really is moving from a one-channel bricks and mortar business to a multi-channel business, to our future being unified channel. And that unification of channel really comes by understanding the customer, putting the customer at the center, and then getting every single touch point, whether it's through e-commerce or anything online, whether it's through a wholesale partner, or whether it is in a best-in-class retail store experiencing that, they have the tremendous experience, and it's actually a continuous experience with us. So as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure you have plenty of questions as well. So, these tips can be applied across any industry, not only retail. Of course, it's very, very relevant to retail, especially in these moments where many people are not going to shopping centers. But there's also a common thread that makes each of them possible, which is also customer data. I come not from the retail industry, but from automotive, aviation, technology at Google, and industry from an agency as well before getting into retail. And I see these happening across and being helpful to pretty much every single industry. And of course, incredibly super relevant, even more in tough times like now for the retail industry. So that concludes our story, but we're obviously more than welcome to take any questions from you guys.
Firstly, thank you both so much. That was very informative, and we do have a few questions here. So I will start with somebody, and apologies if this was answered, would still like to just go through them just to get a bit more context behind them. So the first one is, how is KIKKIK using Lexer data to personalize content for customers in an EDM and your website? So I think you spoke a little bit about the content that you're pushing in EDMs, but specifically on the website, like, are you using any of this to personalize the experience online?
So at this stage online, there are some bits and pieces that we personalize, but it is not at the level of personalization that we managed to do with EDMs or other bits and pieces, other pieces of communication at this stage. However, that is well and truly in the pipeline to deliver a far better experience online. And the biggest change here will be as we launch member loyalty program. And once people sign in into the loyalty program, of course, then the personalization is taken to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's asked, is the CLV calculated within the CDP, or where is that calculation coming from?
Do you want me to answer that question, Ellie?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it really depends on the client that we work with. So Lexer calculates CLV for a number of its clients where they don't necessarily have the capability or resource on their side to do that. So we will typically take as much historical data as we can into the CDP, and then we will apply the algorithm specific to that customer's data set in order to develop the calculation. But then in some cases, some clients will make those calculations themselves, and then we just load those into the platform for access by our users. It can be two ways, done in two ways.
Yep. And is it possible for Lexer to carry out even more complex calculations to create audience segments? An example there was to show which customers over-index in regards to a particular category of products.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a cool little set of features within the CDP that help you to do comparisons. So you can compare segments against each other, or you can compare individual attributes or data points against each other, and that will help you light up similarities and differences between the segments that you have created in the platform. And that the examples that Ale showed earlier on in the presentation were a demonstration of that. So yeah, there's some really cool little features there that will enable you to do that at speed.
Great. And we have a question here, whether you had to hire any, I guess, skilled people to manage this, or what team or department is actually managing this internally?
Sure. So Lexer is incredibly intuitive, and I'd say it's fairly easy to operate pretty much by any person. However, the person who we hired specifically with Lexer at the same time is a data analyst and data insights person, so highly skilled in data analysis, because not only to manage and understand Lexer inside out, but also all the other bits and pieces of analytics, like for example Google Analytics and et cetera, many other bits of data that we have in the business. So the platform is fantastic, but it's like anything, the platform alone without people is not going to bring the smart. So you need to get the most of it, and for that you need the right people looking after and really maximizing all the benefits that a CDP, Lexer CDP, can actually bring to the business. So people who are using Lexer, so we have pretty much the entire team have access to it, even people from product and design, because they get a lot of insights from them, use Lexer. Pretty much everybody in marketing, comms, of course, the entire CRM team, the EDM team, marketing comms team, social team, as well as even exec team as well in various levels. So everyone's really excited to have that data at the fingertips, and how you can actually segment the data and actually understand the data is pretty much the entire business is using it.
Perfect. And we might merge the next two questions together. So what is your EDM/marketing automation tool, and are you doing A/B testing?
A/B testing, yes, absolutely. Sometimes more than A/B testing in many different forms. And the EDM tool that we're using currently is MRSys.
And did you go through a change management process? Is that why you obviously have looked at Lexer? What was the driver to bring Lexer in?
So yes, so when I joined KIKKIK, so the biggest reason for me joining, not being a retail person, but being a various different industries and digital transformation, and especially my time at Google. So one of my tasks was bringing digital transformation into the business And that transformation that we started the journey, and we're in the middle of the journey, Lexer is one of those pieces to increase our customer IQ and drive that transformation of the business.
And I like this question. Why did you choose Lexer over other CDPs in the market? What specifically about this particular platform set it apart from others?
Because Christy is there.
Good answer. I didn't pay you for that.
Joke aside, but that is actually part of the truth. So actually, I'm joking about that, but the people were key drivers of it, from Dave, CEO, to pretty much every single person we dealt with. So they were really a fantastic partner in terms of understanding our problem rather than just selling the platform the way it is, and really adapting to our problems was a massive driver. On top of that, from a technical perspective, is the easy of use. As I mentioned before, I have operated with many CDPs in the past, many different pieces of technology, and Lexer is by far the simplest to understand, the simplest to plug in. In fact, I personally didn't believe that within 3 months we would be up and running with all the pieces of data that we have from all over the place. And that was the truth. And it was pretty seamless, incredibly seamless.
So we actually had a question on that from Tom at Haynes. He asked, how difficult was it to integrate all your online platforms or your retail POS platforms into Lexer, and what was the actual time frame? You've said it was 3 months, but I don't know if that's from start to finish or...
Yeah, it was 3 months. In fact, the data transfer was a lot less than that. But after testing everything and making sure that everyone was happy with everything working properly, it was about 3 months, just under 3 months, I believe. It was incredibly seamless. And to be honest, I'm still waiting for something to go wrong, and it hasn't happened yet.
That's good. Nick Hale has asked, we did go a little bit into predictive, but he wants a bit more specific information in regards to, are there any predictive analytics integrated into the system to give specific data, I guess, in terms of actual ROI and predicted ROI for customers?
So is that from a technology and platform perspective, or is that from a actual...
Yeah, he says, is there any predictive analytics integrated into the system to give the customer, to give you, KIKKIK, to give KIKKIK an idea of ROI and predictive ROI?
Sorry, so what I understand, is that a question for Lexer or for us?
So the question was written for, well, it's asking if there are any predictive analytics within Lexer to give KIKKIK or the customer an idea of ROI or predicted ROI.
Okay. Sorry, Kelly, you go.
In terms of serving it on a silver tray, no. But in terms of predicting what the lifetime value, which in the end you can calculate your ROI based on, and your ROAS depend on spend, etc. So you can get to the calculation with the data. Hence, the need, for example, of a data analyst to do this, can do that fairly easily. But I don't believe, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, Christy, but I don't think there's something that specifically tells you directly from the platform just by pressing a button. But you can get fairly easily with a data analyst.
Yeah, that's right. And I think also what we're seeing as a trend occur more and more is that clients are really considering things like margin in their CLV calculations. So they're looking at more complex variables within their models to really help them get to that point of understanding true ROI. So I think there's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done in that space to sort of get it to that point where you can click a button and understand ROI for any customer or any segment at any point in time. But certainly there are movements towards getting very specific data points in to sort of help build that out over time.
Yeah, and another question here, what sales uplift, if any, profit uplift, if any, has already occurred due to implementing Lexer? And secondly to that, what does success look like for KIKKIK in regards to launching Lexer?
In terms of revenue uplift, as I tell you, the best is one of the examples that I shared with you, and that's pretty similar to everything that we've seen, is in terms of return of investment, so actual revenue uplift from comparing apples to apples, for example, from social media on by using Lexer lookalikes, so lookalikes based on Lexer, I should say, that is about more than 50% lift. The second part of the question was, sorry?
Yeah, so obviously when you look to introduce Lexer into the business, there would have been, I guess, some success factors and how you're measuring success of the actual platform. Are you able to share what that was for you guys, for KIKKIK?
Yes, I cannot share exactly what it was, but we're basically, we're delivering pretty much that or more than what we said we were.
Brilliant. Any other questions? I think we've got through them all, just checking. Oh, here we go. Is KIKKIK working with any I think that's meant to be unauthenticated web customers as a separate segment versus focusing on known customers from, and then the rest of it's cut out.
Meaning with customers outside of our database, because obviously the 3.7 million people we have in our CDP are people who said, yes, I'm happy for you to have my data, right? And for you to communicate with us. Of course, we know these people very, very well. So if the question is, do we communicate with people outside of that? Yes, absolutely. And one of those examples is building lookalikes and then creating segments that look like those segments to people we don't know, that are a Facebook user or a YouTube user or a Google user, etc.
Just waiting to see if there's any final questions, if anyone wants to send them through. Again, Tom from Haynes, what is the cost structure, or how is the, I guess the cost worked out with Lexer?
Okay, so the pricing model for Lexer is based on three sort of core components. The first is around the data. So that is the volume of active customers that you have in your data warehouse that you want to make available in the CDP. The second then is just around software licenses. So the number of individuals that you want to have access to the software. And the third is what we call professional services, which is myself and individuals from my team and throughout the business that work with you and consult with you to make the best decisions from the data that is made available in the CDP. So those are the three core elements, if you like, of our pricing model.
Excellent. And just final check. I don't think anything else has come through. I'm not sure, Christy or Ale, whether there was anything you wanted to add before closing off today's session.
Yeah, I'm happy to say, in the end, we focused a lot about customer lifetime value and tactics and strategies from a marketing perspective on how to communicate. But I think one of the things that I cannot emphasize enough is how having a single source of truth of customer data, how growing out what I call customer IQ, which is really deep understanding of our customer, not only helps marketing or a small group of people within marketing, but the product team for product development is incredible. Understanding why people behave the way they behave, rather than in the past was understanding what people bought or didn't buy and when they did and when they didn't. And we were basing a lot of decisions on that. Now the layers and levels of insights and real understanding takes the whole thinking, the way we operate, the way we think, the way we act, the way we do things every day, and the amount of the smart discussions that we have within the team are at a whole new level just by understanding the customer the way we do today versus what we did only 6 months ago.
Perfect. And Christy, anything final before we wrap it up?
I just wanted to say that if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about Lexer and the CDP, we've listed some additional resources there that you can visit on our website. And of course, if you want to contact me directly, then yeah, please feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to answer any more questions that you might have. But thanks everybody for joining. We're really chuffed that we had so many attendees register and listen in live today. And we look forward to chatting with you soon.
Perfect. And in closing, a few questions did come through about getting a copy of today's presentation, and Brittany from NORA will be distributing a copy of today's presentation out tomorrow, I believe. And in closing, I would just really like to thank both Christy and Ali for your time today and for being so open and sharing what looks to be an exciting journey ahead for you both as you continue to grow customer value through using Lexer. So thank you everyone for joining. Stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.